Hey everyone, hope you're having a great afternoon. It is the Monday after Thanksgiving, and we are out here in sunny San Diego. You can't tell now because the fog is rolling in kind of early. It's only 4 p.m., but the fog is rolling in pretty heavy. We had a great sunny, warm day. I think the temp hit 70 today. It was 73 when we flew in yesterday from Michigan, where we had 4 inches of snow on Saturday, and it was in the 20s. And then this morning, from our friends and family in Michigan, we understand it was something like 4 or 5 with the wind chill. We got snow coming in tonight. The kids have a snow day tomorrow back home. But here in Southern California, it's either in the 70s and sunny or in the 60s and foggy, and we'll take it. So our 2021 F-150 Powerboost Hybrid has hit 20,000 miles, actually just over 21,000, and we're just giving you a quick update on it. Overall, no major issues. A couple of things to pass along, though. The first is that the self-driving system, otherwise known as active cruise control or adaptive cruise control, coupled with lane keeping, coupled with lane centering, which we just call self-driving. And that's not technically correct, but we'd rather not say adaptive cruise control coupled with lane centering, coupled with lane keeping every single time we talk about it. That system continues to work well. The 2 trouble areas I'll mention about it are, first, as we've said many times in the past, the truck waits forever to start slowing down, and it waits until you've gotten almost dangerously close to the traffic in front of you, and then it belatedly sort of slams on the brakes, and that's just unfortunate. Our Tesla Model S, it's kind of the gold standard in that regard. You never ever have to touch the brakes or second guess it, because it's just virtually perfect. And we've driven it for more than 50,000 miles. And you never have to sit there with your foot hovering over the brake pedal, wondering if it's going to do the right thing and start to slow down as it closes up with the traffic ahead of it. The Ford has that problem. You are never really certain if it's going to do the right thing and slow down. And that happens mostly when you're in heavier traffic than what we're experiencing today. And I mean, it says it's orange, so we're going to be hitting some traffic coming up soon. Not sure if you can tell, but we're just under the cloud cover here. And it looks like almost like we're starting to come out of it. You can see the sun starting to shine through. Yeah, we're definitely coming out of it here. Not sure if you can tell. In the space of 5 or 10 seconds, it has changed almost completely. And we're now in sunny skies once again, and beautiful clear weather. But again, when the traffic gets heavier, you just never really know if this thing is going to do a good job of slowing down in time, or if you're going to have to slam on the brakes. And by the way, that flickering that you see in the gauges and the information center, that does not happen in reality. That only happens on video. So that's the number one. That's the first drawback of the, again, what we call the self-driving system. The second drawback is the fact that it doesn't have any audible indicators when it engages and when it disengages. And so what you experience is, well, either the only, you know it's on when you see the blue halo around the picture of the vehicle there, and you get little warnings to keep your hands on the wheel. When it decides that you may or may not actually be paying attention, after maybe 20-30 seconds, it gives you a warning to apply some torque to the steering wheel. Like you see there, keep hands on the steering wheel, and you just shake the steering wheel a little bit, kind of like so, and the warning goes away. If you ignore the warning and I'll show it here in a second. If you ignore the warning and you don't shake the steering wheel, then that little indicator turns red and you get an audible it starts to beep at you. So it's orange now, and now it's red, and you got to shake your hand, shake the steering wheel to get it to go away. But again, the second problem with this system is that it doesn't give you any type of audible indicator when it is turning on or turning off. And the problem there is that sometimes it disengages, and you don't know it because you got your eyes on the road, and you think it's handling the steering for you, and then all of a sudden you go into a curve, and you find out the hard way that it's not handling the steering for you. And so that's unfortunate. Coming up on Bassalone Road. We're about to actually pass out of Camp Pendleton and into the very southern extent of Orange County now. We're on our way to LA for the evening. And so again, it just kind of surprises you sometimes when you think it's following the road and doing its thing, and then all of a sudden you drift into the other lane because it's actually not handling the steering for you, and that can be a little bit disconcerting, a little bit alarming. The Tesla, on the other hand, it always gives you an audible indicator when it's engaging, when it's disengaging, so you never have to wonder if what it's doing. So those are the two drawbacks of the self-driving system, and for the most part, we don't mind it. For the most part, it does a great job. And really, all you really need it to do is keep the truck in the lane, which it's doing, and accelerate and decelerate to stay with the flow of traffic. If it does those two things, the steering and, again, keeping up with the flow of traffic, that's 99% of where you need to be. You don't need something like the Tesla full self-driving package. You don't need the Ford Blue Cruise package, which we've talked about a number of times in the past. We got absolutely zero interest in it because everything it claims to do, you don't need it to do for you. And oh, by the way, if you look up the videos that a couple of people have done who have actually had the chance to see it in action, like Sandy Munro, it is not yet ready for prime time. It was supposed to get released in the third quarter, sometime between July and September, and that did not happen. The third quarter came and went, and Blue Cruise is still not yet released. And again, we couldn't care less because we're not sitting around waiting for it. And we got an XLT, which won't be able to use Blue Cruise anyway. The Blue Cruise is only available in the Lariat and above with, it's like the active 360 Copilot 2.0. We've got the 360 Copilot 2.0 Assist, which is like 25 syllables of essentially saying it's got a series of features. And in the XLT, that series of features does not include Blue Cruise or the ability to activate Blue Cruise. In the Lariat and above with 360 Copilot 2.0 active, yes, you do have the ability to use Blue Cruise. Again, it seems like a nothing burger to us. We're not. It's going to be a long time before we're comfortable letting a vehicle drive for us with our hands off the wheel. You know, there's so much that can happen on the highway so quickly that in the 1 or 2 or 3 seconds that it takes you to grab the steering wheel and gain control of the vehicle, you could already be dead or in a ditch or upside down, and we're just again, we're not anywhere near ready to trust a vehicle to do the driving for us with our hands off the wheel. Hands on the wheel, you know, just kind of holding on loosely like 38 Special. You can take control anytime if it screws up. Hands off the wheel, like on your lap, no, it's not happening. Okay, enough about that. A couple other things to pass along. We are having an issue with the audio where the sound system, whether or not you have CarPlay active, whether you got the factory sound or whether you got CarPlay or the factory FM, AM, XM, what have you, that does not provide any actual sound at the moment. And we've done a decent amount of looking around and Googling and checking the forums and so on and so forth. And what some people say is that when the sound cuts out completely and you don't even have, you use the volume control buttons, you're hitting the volume over and over, and all it does is stay on 0. Or you actually use the knob, turn the volume knob, and it stays on 0. What people seem to be indicating is that, well, maybe you just need to reset the amp, and the way to reset the audio amp is to pull the fuse and then put it back in. And we haven't had the chance to do that yet. We've only been out here for a day and been super busy. Next time we get 10-20 minutes, we'll break open the fuse box and pull that fuse and see if it does the trick. Other than that, one issue, which is something of a major issue, the fact that there's no sound. There aren't even like your turn signals work, but like audible indicators or announcements. Your Google Maps doesn't give you any sound system, again, either anything through Bluetooth or your actual FM AM radio. There's no CD player in this thing. None of that works. So we'll see what happens once we get the fuse to the amp pulled and reinstalled, and we'll give you an update. Okay, a few other things to pass along. Not that we care too much about it, but the mileage on this one trip, which is not exactly scientific, but we did a decent amount of stop and go, going through Carlsbad and then getting out on the highway, and we've been somewhere between 65 and 75 for about the last 20 miles on the highway, and in pretty heavy traffic. And look at that MPG for the trip, 21.6. That is not bad for a full-size pickup. Not bad at all. And a lot of people say, well, so what? I got a 2.7. I get better mileage than that. I got a 3.5 EcoBoost without the hybrid system. I get better mileage than that. Well, our other truck at the moment is a 2011 Silverado with the 6.6 liter LML Duramax, and that gets in the low teens typically. Low to mid-teens. And on a good day, maybe 16 to 18 with no trailer, going on level ground, under 75 miles an hour. So 21.7 is not exactly anything to be super proud of. But at the same time, compared to our Expedition, compared to our Suburban, compared to, again, our Silverado with the Duramax, it's not bad at all. Compared to our 97 F-150, which got about 16 MPGs no matter what you did with it. And that was with the 4.6 liter V8 with the 5-speed manual transmission, 4-wheel drive, extended cab, long bed. You could be going 60 miles an hour and it would still get 16 miles to the gallon on the highway. We had 33-inch tires. We had big tires on it, and that I guess that can hurt your aerodynamics, hurt your MPGs a little bit, but it also reduces your RPMs. Didn't matter. 16 miles to the gallon. Okay, what else? The interior is in good shape. It's not showing any premature wearing or weathering or anything of that nature. As you would expect, the truck isn't even a year old. It's only 9 months old. But nothing is starting to buzz or rattle or loosen up. The leather is still in great shape. We've got the cat skin leather seats on it. It's still in excellent shape. And there's a couple of scuffs and scrapes on the exterior, as you'd imagine. Good thing about that is that it's got an aluminum body, so even if we weren't in Southern California, which has perfect weather, and we were back in Michigan, no issues there in terms of, worrying about premature rust. Not going to happen. We are seeing a little bit of premature wear on the outer edge of the right front tire. And that's starting to wear just a little bit faster than it should. It's noticeable. And you don't see it on the left front tire. You obviously don't see it on the rear tires. And we have been rotating them every 10,000. So, I don't know if, somebody else has been driving it for a while, and so we're going to need to check into that, see if there's been an alignment issue, see if it hit a curb or something, and see if there's anything to find out there. The tires are 20-inch all-terrains. You have to get the 20s with the max tow package, and we got the max tow package along with quite a few other optional packages right off the lot. We didn't order this thing. We got it in March, right before the chip shortage came into effect, and they had to completely stop production of the F-150. I think that was in the middle of April, middle part of April. And so we were, this is one of the last Powerboost hybrids you could buy right off the lot without having a special order it and wait 6 or 8 or 10 months for it to come in. A lot of people are starting to say their trucks are coming in 4 or 5 months these days. So it could be that the chip shortage is starting to work itself out. We really like the instrument cluster. I like the fact that it's got analog gauges. The Lariat and above have a full digital instrument cluster, and we're just not into it. The tachometer, it's all digital, and it's got a big number in the middle that says, instead of like 1800, which you can tell by looking at the needle, it says like 1.8. And you got to think, okay, 1.8, that must mean 1.8 times 1,000 RPMs, and that's a little more computation than we really need to do when we're driving down the highway. You'd rather just look at the needle and say, okay, 1,700 RPMs, got it. 72 miles an hour, got it. You got a digital readout anyway, right there for your speed. But for the RPMs, especially when your revs are going up and down, it's just kind of goofy having like a bar graph and then a number. So we're going through southern Orange County now. Very, very pretty. And we haven't done any travel out west since almost 6 months ago. It's just the middle of June. Been in the Midwest and then a couple times to the East Coast during the summer and fall. Spent a lot of time lately dealing with the project that we picked up on Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and Fort Pickett, Virginia. Been delivering truckloads of supplies to those 2 locations with our 48-foot gooseneck. 20 pallets at a time. Another thing to pass along, the hybrid system is completely transparent. You don't really notice it doing its thing. The engine will turn off, as it just did, at 65 miles an hour on the highway if the truck decides that that's what needs to happen at the time. And then it cuts back on when you need to. It's completely unobtrusive. It's not an issue. It does its thing. It works. You see right now, engine is off. Engine's back on. It just works. It's not like clunking and sort of shuddering and shimmying or doing anything like that. So far in this trip, we've had pretty good luck with the issue I mentioned earlier, the truck not really wanting to keep its distance. But that's because we haven't had a lot of stopping and starting. And even on these really narrow lanes on the I-5, which aren't really that well marked in a lot of cases, it does a good job of reading the lane dividers and staying in the lane. Very, very good job. Not perfect, but good enough. The 12-inch touchscreen, no issues aside from the glaring impact of the loss of volume. But the screen itself works fine. There's no burned out pixels. There's nothing like that. It's only been 9 months, but some electronic systems start to fail a lot sooner than 9 months. The fact that you can't get your CarPlay on the full screen is kind of a hassle. It's kind of annoying. And so instead of like the full 12-inch screen that you're using, you're only getting about 2/3 of it, maybe 3/4. So you're only getting like 8 or 9 inches of useful real estate because it's got this split screen. And if you switch to factory nav, can apparently, allegedly, get full screen with factory nav, but we don't even hardly use factory nav. We just use CarPlay. And as I would imagine many or most people do for their navigation, they use their Google Maps on their phone beamed out to CarPlay wirelessly over Wi-Fi, so the refresh rate is really, really fast. And the fact that you're restricted to like the left 2/3 of the screen, that's just kind of annoying. Ford was trying a little bit too hard in terms of the design in the user interface on the touchscreen. You virtually never use that right-hand slice of the screen. And so as compared to a Tesla, which on the Model S and the X has a vertically oriented, meaning portrait mode, screen that has a gigantic map on it. This thing which is horizontally oriented, meaning landscape mode, and you only get to use about 2/3 of it. That's a missed opportunity there. And it's kind of unfortunate, but what's there to say? Nothing. Except maybe they'll give us an over-the-air update at some point. Maybe. Climate controls, audio controls, nothing bad at all to say about them. The fact that you can set the temp on your temp dial and put it into auto, and then that button there, the auto button itself, you can hit it a couple times to set a maximum fan speed. And so that's kind of nice. Like when you get into a car and it's in a hot parking lot or an extremely cold parking lot, and the climate control wants to blast the air at you. And sometimes you don't really need that or want that. You can set a maximum fan speed, upper limit, using that button, just kind of repeatedly hitting it. And that's extremely cool. Very well thought out. But for the most part, you just don't even think about it. You set your temp and then you forget it because it does its thing. The ride, the handling, nothing bad at all to say about it. For a stiffly sprung, let's rephrase that, for a pickup truck that has an exceptionally large payload, like the F-150, with the very lightweight body, with the aluminum body, meaning it's not carrying anywhere near its maximum weight most of the time, you'd think the ride would be exceptionally harsh. And in fact, it is not. It's a lot smoother and more comfortable of a ride than you would ever expect, even with the max tow package, even completely unloaded. I mean, they really, really nailed the ride and handling calibration on this thing. It's almost shocking how comfortable of a ride this thing is for a truck that has so much capability, for a truck that has four-wheel drive, that is capable of going through, really punishing terrain. And towing 10,000 plus, including on a fifth wheel or a gooseneck, 1,000 pounds of pin weight. It is exceptional how well it rides completely empty. Because for the most part, like again, going back to our 97 F-150, when it had nothing in the bed, the ride was terrible. I mean, it made your teeth rattle. And then when you loaded it up to the max payload, or you hitched a trailer onto it, it was a lot more comfortable. With this thing, you don't have to do that. It's got a lot more payload, much, much more payload than that than that 97 ever did. But at the same time, loaded or unloaded, it's very, very comfortable. So, again, great job Ford with the chassis dynamics and calibration and engineering. Very, very good job. They nailed it. The Pro Power on Board system, not much to say about it. It just works. It just works. We haven't had the chance to max out the 7.2 kilowatt output, or run our house off of it or anything like that, but we will at some point. She got that 300 SD. That's like an early 80s S-Class in perfect condition. That was the 5-cylinder turbo diesel, the 3-liter. That Mercedes, I mean, they must have put out hundreds of thousands of those. In the S-Class and the E-Class, great engine. Built like a tank. And out here in a place where the weather's perfect and you got no salt on the roads, yeah, it's not at all uncommon to see an early 80s 40-year-old Mercedes in perfect condition still on the highways. You see a lot of those early 90s, like the original Lexus, the LS400 from 89, 90, whenever it came out. You see a lot of those. Going through Irvine now, which is pretty much the most built up area in Orange County. I mean, almost all of Southern California is suburbs, except like downtown LA, Irvine, San Diego, and a few other areas, like Century City, so on and so forth. But Irvine is like the, I don't know, the business, financial hub of Orange County. Other things to pass along. The first thing you notice when you get into it, first thing I noticed compared to our Silverado, is how quiet it is. Quiet and refined. I mean, the engine makes tons and gobs of power. 400 plus horsepower, 500 plus pounds of torque, pound-feet of torque. And even when you got your foot buried in the carpet, when you got it floored, it is not straining or under any stress of any kind. It just does its thing. It obviously makes more noise when you're deep into the throttle than when it's just cruising. But at no time does it sound like it's struggling. And our Silverado with the Duramax, yeah, you bury the throttle and it's going to be a significant auditory event. And so in terms of refinement and in terms of, again, all the development and all the work they put into it to make it a comfortable truck to spend lots and lots of time in, they just nailed it in every respect, virtually. Our two complaints, really the only two major complaints we have at all about this truck, you could call it a third. The first is the hybrid battery is too small, and so it doesn't contribute much in terms of fuel economy, in terms of the ability to run the AC power, the Pro Power on board, without starting the engine all the time. The hybrid battery is tiny. There's a Prius in front of us, and the Prius, I think, has a 1.3 kilowatt hour battery. This pickup truck, which is, 2 or 3 times heavier than a Prius, has a 1.5 kilowatt hour battery. It's ridiculous. And so that was a huge wasted opportunity. The other thing, again, in terms of its ability to contribute to economy, its ability to contribute to operating the vehicle, more efficiently and more powerfully, the lack of a real substantial battery hurts you in both areas. And again, when you're parked and using the AC outlets, the engine is coming on all the time, every like 5-10 minutes, even when you're not drawing a lot of load. So that's just annoying. And then the second thing is the lack of willingness to control the speed on downhill or in heavy traffic scenarios. The fact that it keeps you guessing, the fact that you got to ride the brakes a little bit more than you should, a lot more than you should, that part's annoying as well. And then the third thing we'll mention is the rear axle. We really wish Ford gave you an option, kind of like they used to when the F-150, when the 97 F-150 came out. You could get a heavier duty F-150 with a 7,700 pound rear axle, which allowed you to hold a lot more payload or a lot more tongue weight or a lot more pin weight on a trailer. without maxing out the springs. And if it would do those three things, have a bigger hybrid battery, better braking, engine braking or electric braking, regen braking, what have you, and a stronger rear axle, this would be just about the perfect truck. Perfect light-duty truck. Other than that, nothing much to add, and we will let you go. Hope everyone's having a great day and had a great Thanksgiving, too. We will talk to you later.